Hello, Em. How are you doing, girl? It's your father, Miguel, reaching out through the internet, saying hello. Hi there. So, today is the 14th of October. It is a Sunday, and it's a little cloudy outside. You know, it's normal for Lompoc to be this cloudy, and the weather has been really beautiful lately. I mean, here we are mid October, and the temperature outside is like 72 degrees. It's really nice. Though I can feel a nip in the air. Yeah, autumn is definitely here. It's getting cooler in the evenings, and it's getting darker in the evenings too. And I'm definitely looking forward to finding a knit hat that I can wear. I'm kind of in the market for a knit hat. I've looked around a few places. I want to find a knit hat that's colorful and maybe even a little playful and looks pretty handsome on me. I haven't found one yet that meets all that criteria. Maybe it's out there. The one is out there. I'm sure of it. The one. The one is out there, girl. So, and I also want to go check out, see if I can find a jacket. So last night I went to go see Robin Hood at the Cabrillo High School Theater, and it was really well done. I was really impressed by the production value, and the costumes were out of this world. They were so beautiful, so well done. The king's costume, it was encrusted with gems and like emeralds and rubies, and I remember all the design work of it on the sleeves, and the crowns. There was the king and then the queen, and all the costumes look just so well. Whoever is building those costumes is really talented, is a really talented designer, a really talented seamstress, and my kudos go out to whoever's developing all those costumes. Even down to the shoes. I don't know how they're working the shoes, but maybe the individual actors purchase their own shoes. But I really was impressed. I was really impressed by even the. I was also impressed by the casting. It seemed that the characters, like the actors, were really appropriate for the roles that they played. Like whoever was choosing who should play what character, they did a fantastic job. I mean, the the king definitely acted kingly, and Robin Hood acted Robin Hoodly, and Little John acted Little Johnly, and Friar Tuck was just a total Friar Tuck, and I was really impressed by whoever selected those actors. And I'll tell you, the work that went into that production was amazing to me. I really could see the time that everyone spent memorizing their lines, and those were not easy lines. A lot of the words were in a sort of a flowery Middle Ages style, and they used words appropriate to the time, and they're not easy. It's not easy to memorize words that you're not familiar with, right? And let alone deliver them to an audience of strangers. So I don't know. I was just really impressed by the whole play. And I look forward to the next play. I was thinking, wow, hopefully they have one coming up next semester. I'd love to see it. And one of the most interesting aspects was I discovered that you are part of the production. I forget the exact title that you're involved in, but something about stagecraft, something about a tech, some kind of tech, some kind of technician, I forget, that works in the background. Hey, good for you. Good going, girl. Oh, I love to see that, how you're participating in this kind of after school activity. Oh, among the drama kids, those are great people to hang around with. And oh, how much joy you must get out of helping those that group and supporting that group in whatever it is you do. I would definitely like to hear more about all the work that you're doing for the theater. I'll tell you, one thing about me is that I love local theater. I love the Lompoc Civic Theater. There's also called the Lompoc Little Theater. I don't know if the Little Theater and the Civic Theater are the same, but my guess is that they may be the same. I also like San Luis Obispo Little Theater and Santa Maria Civic Theater. That's different from the PCPA theater from the university. And they also have the Solvang Theater in Solvang, and I just love these small theaters. And it really makes my heart proud to see the actors and actresses work so hard to put together these amazing stories, and they really pull them off. They really do. I'm really moved by their efforts, and I don't know. It's a big part of what I enjoy about living in a small town, and that is having access to a great little theater or a local civic theater. It really is a big deal to me because I like to go to the theater. In fact, even the American melodrama in Nipomo, that's something I really enjoy. Now that's a lot of fun. I love the singing and the dancing, and yeah, and that reminds me the holiday program is coming up at the American melodrama. That might be something to go check out. That would definitely get me into the Christmas spirit, certainly into the holiday spirit. Now I'm getting kind of interested in finding out what might be showing soon. That in itself sounds pretty interesting to me. So anyway, I'm a big lover of theater. I remember you and I and your mom, we took you to a lot of theater when you were growing up. I remember there was one time we took you to Mary Poppins at the Marion Theater. Was it Mary Poppins or was it 76 Trombones Led the Big Parade? What was that one called? The Piano Man, or I don't know. I'll have to take some time and remember the details. But we used to take you to a lot of theater. We took you to a Dr. Seuss play down in Los Angeles one time. And so you have a lot of experience with theater in your childhood. And it's so great to see you sort of moving forward in your life, making contributions to theater and participating in theater now in your young adulthood. So anyway, I was really pleased and really proud to get to know that about you. You know, what a wonderful daughter. I love learning these new things about you. It's just so exciting and stimulating to me, and just the pride is just bursting forth out of my chest. It's like, yeah, what an amazing person she is. She has half my DNA. That's right, half my DNA. All right. So very good. So let's get started like we usually do with Mary McKenzie's book, Peaceful Living. And it's called Daily Meditations for Living with Love, Healing, and Compassion. And we'll have to see what Mary McKenzie has in store for us today. Today is October the 14th. So the quote for the day is this. Warning. Statistics have shown that mortality increases perceptively in the military during wartime. Alphonse Elias. Sometimes I don't know where Mary McKenzie is coming from. You know, so I want to mention, first of all, just a little disclaimer that, I think Mary Mackenzie in her book brings forward a lot of interesting ideas, but I'm not necessarily a proponent of everything that she says. For me, it's sort of a stimulus, it's sort of a trigger for us to have conversations about the world and the people in it. And really, that's the only reason I use it. I like that it's coming from a peaceful place, but I don't know if you've listened the last couple days. They're not necessarily the most peaceful passages, at least by my standards. But you know what? It is what it is, and I'll do the best I can. And well, let's see what Mary Mackenzie has to say about this quote about wartime. Here we are. So the subtitle is this. It says, "Are your behaviors working for you?" Albert Einstein once said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. I think this applies to our communication patterns. Many of us learn a way of being when we're young and take that information into our adulthoods without question. Eventually, we notice that we're just not happy in our relationships and in our jobs or aspects of our lives. We may be miserable, in fact, yet we hesitate to change our behavior. Why? Because even though we're unhappy, we're on familiar ground. Our lives are predictable and dependable. It may be hell, but it's our hell. For some of us, though, we may live this way because we simply don't know another way of being. If you'd like to change the results of your life, change your behavior. First, connect with the needs you want to meet. Do you overeat to meet your needs for protection, ease, or relief? Do you yell at your children to meet your needs for ease, to be heard, and to contribute to their lives? Once you are clear on the needs, consider other strategies that might meet them and other needs you may have, such as connection, harmony, or consideration. Your behavior change doesn't have to be big. Just do something different. Even changing one behavior, one attitude, or one action can alter your course. And the thought for the day is, for today, choose one behavior you would like to change. Connect to the needs you were trying to meet, and change one thing that will meet them better. I've actually kind of been thinking about this idea a lot as it relates to my relationship with you. I wonder how I can improve the mutuality between us. How can I make more effective contributions to your life? And in my own judgment, I think I'm doing okay, but I would like to do better. I'd like to be more effective at lifting you up, at helping you develop and helping you unfold. I'm just not quite sure how to do that, and how to do that effectively. I'm not quite getting the feedback that I'd like to be getting. And so, that question that Mary Mackenzie asked, choose one act that might better serve you, and modify that act so it better serves you. That's really applicable to me as it relates to my relationship with you. I really do want to figure out an answer to this conundrum. And I'll probably be making some queries in the future in some letters and such to see how I can be a more effective parent. Yeah. So anyway, on that note, that was pretty good. Are your behaviors working for you? This whole idea of examining our behavior makes me think for a moment about my inner voice. My inner voice is this built-in judge of behavior. And, it's really important to do what I'd call like a sort of like a just sort of an analysis after you've performed a behavior, asking yourself whether that behavior was effective or not, whether it could have been better, or whether there was something you could have done, or something you didn't do, or something that you did that you probably ought not to have done, just so that you can optimize, and navigate your way through life. And I know that inner voice in your head, and it's in your head, it's in my head, it's in everyone's head. It's often trying to correct us. The intention behind that inner voice is good. It's really trying to sort of enhance our well-being and help us flourish and live lives of meaning and avoid risky situations and avoid putting our values at risk. And what's interesting is that this inner voice often also can be quite harsh. It can be very critical, and in fact, it can be what I'd call irrationally critical. It could be exaggerating your weak points. There's in fact, everyone that I know of has in their minds these inner voices that can be very strident and very harsh. Our inner voices may say things like, "What's wrong with you?" Or, "Why can't you do this right, idiot?" And these are voices inside of our minds, helping us to correct our behavior, but at the same time, tearing us down quite often, making us feel more reluctant to act, whittling away at our courage and our bravery. And what's good about these inner voices is that we have some control over them. In a way, they are us. They are our minds. And quite often they've been conditioned over time since childhood to act in this way, to say things like they say things, to have the most meaningful impact. And but these statements that our inner voice makes also can be filled with overgeneralizations and distortions, untrue ideas, and a lot of false ideas. And so, I've mentioned this before. I think it's probably one of the most common themes that you've heard me talk about, and that is to make your inner voice more gentle, more helpful as a partner, and less harsh, less critical, less hurtful, less emotionally hurtful. I think there's a lot to be benefited from having a more calm and considered inner voice. Now, in society, there seems to be this, what I'd call, response to even out how people treat themselves as they talk to themselves with their inner voice. There's like this, I think many of us could acknowledge this severe critic in our inner voice, that voice. And our society and our culture asks us to love ourselves, right? Through self-care and self-love. It's sort of like the counterweight to the critical inner voice. And our society is acting to balance out that counterweight with, a focus on self-love and self-care. But that focus on self-love and self-care in our society is almost saccharine. And what I mean by that is that it's almost too sweet. They almost misrepresent self-love. They misrepresent self-love by saying that, they suggest that even if things are bad or terrible, that you're still wonderful, or you're doing just great, you're doing just fine, everything's good. Don't worry. It's their problem, not yours. When that may not be the most loving thing to say to yourself. In fact, that's a lot of the heat that positive affirmations get in our culture, is that they're not true and unrealistic and just not authentic to the situation. And so, in a way, we do have these two counterweights. One is our inner voice and its criticality, and the other is society's response, which is positive affirmations that are inauthentic. And so what I'm suggesting is a middle way. The middle way is a focus on creating an inner voice which is accurate and that talks to you in a friendly way, that's gentle, that can take account of what's true. Maybe you did. Maybe there was an error in judgment or in action, and your inner voice can assist by making helpful suggestions about future behavior that might be more effective. I can imagine an inner voice saying, well, next time this happens, let's adjust our behavior in this specific way. And not only shall we decide to do this, but let's make a note to ourselves so that in the future we can be reminded about this new behavior when it's time to make it. And so, do you see what I'm saying? I'm talking about a gentle inner voice, which is a correcting voice, but is one that's not overly harsh, is more realistic, and is just more gentle and caring and supportive. I think it's possible to have an inner voice that does that. It's an inner voice that doesn't curse, that is, say bad words. It's an inner voice that is more even and peaceful. It's an inner voice that is a lot more helpful and supportive, and it acknowledges screw-ups, right? It acknowledges times when you've made a mistake, where you've messed up, or you're not living according to your values. I guess what I'm talking about is optimizing the inner voice so that it's more effective, so that you're more effective and happier in your life, even during the times when you've made an error and have acted in an incorrect way. I still think it's possible to be supportive. Just like a parent might talk to their child, or a teacher might talk to their student, or a good manager might talk to their employee. They acknowledge that sort of the deficit of behavior in the moment and come up with some kind of structured way to sort of build alternate behaviors in a way that's respectful and kind and loving. So anyway, I don't know. Like I mentioned, this is definitely what I'd guess is the main theme of a lot of my conversation with you here on videos and videos past. It's a focus on reasonableness and gentleness for your inner voice and how you talk to yourself. I think a person's relationship to themselves is very important, and how they talk to themselves is really part and parcel of that relationship. I talk about how your life is really about how you approach the negative thought, right? How do you approach it? What do you firm up with critical self-accusations when confronted with a negative thought? Or are you able to, like water, sort of flow around and whittle away at the poor behavior until the poor behavior is no longer a problem because it's been adjusted, right? So anyway, that's my stance, and I'm sticking to it. All right, so enough of that. Let's move on, shall we? So one of the things I've been doing lately is I've been referring to my Kindle I've got this book about questions, and I'm just going to move through each and every question, and we'll see where it takes us. And so recently we've been talking about dreams, and whether dreams have special meanings, and what I do as a lottery winner. And here's question number 28. Do you firmly believe you will be rich one day? That's the question. So, my answer to this question is I already believe that I'm wealthy. Now, if you look around me and my surroundings, you wouldn't necessarily be able to say that. I live in probably one of the cheapest apartments in the city of Lompoc, and I'm renting. But I still think that I am wealthy in my own mind and in my own heart. I know that I'm extremely wealthy, and I have it's a deep seated knowledge. So when it asks me, do I ever think I'll be wealthy? Well, do you firmly believe you'll be rich one day? I already believe that. I am rich in my own mind. I'm certainly not rich by standards that are set on television or even by most of society's standards. But for me, I'm rich in the sense that I pretty much have everything I want. I exercise regularly, I eat well, I have enjoyable friends and family, I have good health. I've heard it said that wealth is health, or health is wealth. And you know what? I think that's really true. Health is wealth. I go to the doctor regularly and get checkups, and my doctor's satisfied with how healthy I am. I'm satisfied with it. We could all be a little healthier, and I'm striving, taking steps to get a little bit healthier every day, and I'm making really good progress in that. And that is wealthy enough. As a human being, who is infamous, and all human beings are infamous for just being black holes of want and need. I'm doing pretty good. Of course, that was an exaggeration just a moment ago, but I think that's largely true. Human beings just want more and more. They want the whole world, right? And I could tell you pretty honestly that I'm pretty satisfied. So I already feel quite wealthy. And now, could I do with more money? Sure, that'd be fine. Would it make me a lot happier? Well, maybe. I'm not sure. But I'm pretty satisfied with the amount of wealth that I've got right now. Now, as for the future, will I be even more wealthy in the future? I don't know. It's up in the air. If things stay about the same for me for the rest of my life, I think I'll be okay. I think that's good enough for me. Would I love to be a millionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire? Are there even trillionaires? Well, sure. I think in the last video I talked a little bit about how it might be a real challenge to sort of keep up a lot of my healthy habits, even as a wealthy person, that I'd have to find a personal trainer that I liked, and that I'd have to have a personal chef, because there would be a lot of travel involved. It's kind of interesting. I'm really not, I know that wealth can sort of be a stimulus for more travel, and I've seen it. People tend to travel around, and I'm pretty sure that if I got really wealthy that I would travel around too, because, well, it's actually kind of wonderful to get to learn about other cultures and other places, and it's very entertaining. I don't know. Here's the thing about me. I am not that much into travel. I've been to a few places, and what I've recognized is that you're kind of always with yourself. You're kind of always with yourself. No matter what different place you're living in, you're kind of always you. You've basically are you are in your mind, and you're trapped in your mind. You're trapped in the skull that's in your head, right? Of your head. And, that's not going anywhere. A person changing his surroundings, there's novelty there. There's excitement and interest there. There's learning there. And for those reasons, traveling is wonderful. Though travel can also be very disruptive. It can disrupt your circle of friends and acquaintances and relatives It can disrupt your work. It can disrupt your workout routine. It can disrupt your food eating routine. And I'm a man who loves his routine. So, yeah, so I have mixed feelings about travel. And, for that reason, I have mixed feelings about great wealth. Maybe one of these days my ideas about travel will change. I know a lot of people love to travel. The Shanks, for example, they travel all over the world. They've been to Australia and Scandinavia and Europe, and they do a lot of travel. And I'm happy for them. It sounds like they really enjoy the travel that they do. For me, I'm actually quite satisfied hanging out in Southern California. I really love Southern California. I mean, I really love it. And I'd be happy to stay here for the rest of my life. Now, if I, of course, were like a billionaire, I'd probably move to a different place. I don't know where I'd move to. But maybe I'd move to, I have no idea. Where would I move? Where would I move? Where would I move to if I could live anywhere on the planet? I don't know. Anyway, let's see what the next question is. So that was question 28. Question 29. Do you like public transportation? Well, when I think of public transportation, I think of buses and I think of trains. So I have been on a few buses like the Colt, which is the City of Lompoc transit bus system. And I like it very much. It seems to be like a great bus system, and it seems to go to all the neat places in Lompoc, and I've been on it a few times. And I've also traveled to Santa Maria using the bus system and back from Santa Maria back to Lompoc again. So I've got some experience. One thing that's true about public transportation for me is that even though it's quite economical, what I don't care for it is the amount of time it takes and how you need to structure your life around the public transportation. The hours that the bus shows up. There's a lot less flexibility, right? I love the freedom to decide when to go to places and where to go to them. When I own my private car, and it's really hard to give up that freedom. I feel a little bit constrained when I'm on a bus or when I'm on a train. It's like I have to live my life according to the train schedule. And if I change my mind, like, if I forgot an item at the grocery store, I can't just turn around and go to the grocery store when I'm taking the bus or a train somewhere. So, it limits my flexibility, it limits my freedom. So, do I like public transportation? Sure, it's just fine, and I have no problems using it. I get to meet up with different people, and it's a very economical way to travel. But there are drawbacks. There are costs. It's not a cost in money, but it's a cost in time, right? Yeah, time and flexibility. And in the future, I see that busing will be a whole lot different than it is today. And there may not even be buses. Now, I'm thinking about autonomous vehicles. And there might even be autonomous buses, but in fact, there probably will be autonomous buses. There already are autonomous buses at airports, places like that. The future of transportation is really changing rapidly. I expect autonomous cars to really start gaining some traction in the next 2 or 3 years, around 2020. And I'm excited to see the changes. I'm anticipating lots of changes to our society, to how to just everything related to our transportation systems, our grid, our energy systems, even our work systems. autonomous vehicles are coming, and those autonomous vehicles are going to change the public transportation industry. And I'm kind of curious to what kind of changes those will bring. But anyway, getting back to the question itself, do I like public transportation? Sure. But there are drawbacks. All right, what's the next step? Question number 30. Which form do you prefer? Well, if I had to choose a kind of public transportation, I think I would choose buses as my favorite. Now, there are a lot of different kinds of public transportation showing up right now. Bicycles, you can rent bicycles downtown Santa Barbara. And in fact, you can rent battery-powered bicycles in downtown Santa Cruz. And these are great options of public transportation. Although I don't think they're funded publicly. That is, they're not funded by the city or the state or the county. They're commercial businesses that are investing for public transportation. Other kinds of public transportation, as I mentioned, bicycles, buses, and then trains. And the thing about the train is that it sort of moves from city to city, right? And so you have to be willing to move from city to city if you're going to take a train. It's not really an option for me because I just don't do a lot of moving from city to city. So I think buses are my favorite form of public transportation. All right. So question number 31. Do you have any talents? Well, I'll just run off what I think are some of my talents. Number one, I think I'm a pretty good communicator. Number two, I think I'm a pretty good writer. I've never really had any troubles writing, and I've always kind of enjoyed it. I think I'm a pretty good reader, but I've actually watched myself in these videos reading, and I'm really not too keen on how I'm reading. I have really high standards for reading, and I would really like to improve my reading skills. So, though I would say that I do have something of a talent for reading. And it's just a small talent. It's certainly not blowing people away. I'm not going to be an actor or a voice coach or anything like that. It's just a very marginal talent related to reading. Let's see, what else? So all those are methods of communication. I think I have a talent for electronics. That is, essentially, I'm just saying that I've got the patience that a person needs to work with electronics. I'm not saying I've got infinite patience, but I have enough patience to work effectively with machines. And that's not to say that I work well on every machine either. I don't consider myself a handy person. And it's not like I'm really good with tools or anything like that. But if I were to get good with working with tools, I think that I could be pretty good. I think there's a potential for talent. I have a potential for talent for working with my hands. It just hasn't really been realized yet. What other talents do I have? I think I have a small talent for dancing. Now, I do some ecstatic dance, and I don't do any formal structured dances. Not anymore. I did take some dance classes a long time ago, and I enjoyed them. And I was able to, I think, excel a little bit at some beginning country western dance back when I was in college. But I haven't danced like that in a long time. And I wouldn't necessarily say I have that talent persists. Talents, when they are developed, can be useful, but even a talent, when it's ignored, basically it goes away. I used to have a talent at video games, but I don't think I have that anymore. I used to have a talent at playing pool, billiards, but I don't do that anymore. I have a talent skiing, but I haven't been skiing in such a long time. A lot of my talents have suffered from disuse over the years. You know, and there are things that I think I'm rather talented at, but I don't put enough energy or time into developing that. The talents have sort of waned. Like, for example, I used to think that I was talented at running, though, and today I run on the treadmill, and I can say that I'm not as satisfied with my running as I'd like. And I think part of that reason has to do with my own mind. I just don't have the drive or the motivation that I once did when I was a kid. So I make steady improvements, but the improvement is slow going and not necessarily up to my expectations. But I will admit a small talent with running, and that's not to say that my form is excellent and my endurance is outstanding and out of this world. I guess what I'm saying is that in comparison to a lot of people, I do pretty well when it comes to running. That's all I'm saying. For me, that's the definition of talent that I'm sticking with. Now let's say in a rather conventional societal question of real talent, oh man. I think writing. And you know what? There is another. I think I'm also pretty good when it comes to social skills. I know. What's kind of funny is these areas where I have talents, like communication, social skills, even reading, those areas where I have talents, I have really high, almost elevated standards for my behavior. And so while I might have a talent compared to a lot of other people in society, in my own view, while I recognize that I have a talent, I'm quite rigorous. I have very high standards about my behavior in those areas of talent. So, in a way, I also struggle. So there's like a hidden struggle when it comes to my talents. And I have a feeling that this is the case for extremely talented people. For example, Lady Gaga. I just saw her movie A Star Is Born with Bradley Cooper, right? Love the movie. She was fantastic in it. I totally admire her work. And I'm excited to see what other projects she'll be acting in the future. But I also have this feeling that Lady Gaga, at least for her, in her mind, thinks that she could do a lot better as an actor and maybe even as a singer. It's kind of funny. When it comes to talent, she is at the top of the hill, right? Quite literally the apex of the hill. And I have a feeling that she has very high standards for her singing and her acting. The same is true for, I imagine, like Olympic athletes, right? These Olympic athletes, they're literally on the top of the mountain, top of the heap when it comes to their skill. Let's say they're a swimmer or a gymnast. But I can imagine in their mind they struggle all the time with questions related to their talent. Even great actors, I can imagine struggle in that way. It's kind of interesting how human beings are always trying to improve, right? At least from my perspective, I think that's true. It may not be the case for everyone. I imagine how interesting is it that there are people in the world with these amazing talents that do not get exercised because of lack of interest. I know a few super smart people who just aren't successful because, not in the world, because they have no interest in being successful. And, it's almost a tragedy for us as human beings to live on a planet with 8 billion people who all have amazing talents. And I can imagine that talent goes to waste in many people simply because they have no desire to exercise their talents. Think of all the singers and dancers out there who could be just outstanding. All the athletes and politicians that could be amazing. All the lawyers and engineers that could just change the landscape of the world as we know it. But do not, because those people with talents just are not interested in developing their talents. They're interested in other things. You know, it's kind of funny. When I was a kid, 18, 19 years old, I decided to major in math and physics. Now, the fact is that math and physics were not where my talents were. My talents were in communication and language and psychology. That's where my talent was. And, an 18-year-old making lifelong choices about their career path is not necessarily the smartest. 18-year-olds don't make the smartest choices. And, now I do have a passion and a great interest for science. It's a philosophical devotion. And, I'm proud of my achievements in science and math. But science and math weren't necessarily a strong talent of mine. At least the math part. But I pursued it anyway. I got a lot of practice doing math. I'm probably better at math than a lot of people are, but only because I've done a lot of practice. But by my own standards, I really don't think I'm good at math at all. I'm reminded of what Albert Einstein had to say about his math skills. I remember there was a quote suggesting that he said that no matter what difficulties you think you might have in math, I can assure you that my difficulties are even greater. And Albert Einstein is a person who's essentially really famous for a skill in math, for his skills in math. I mean, this whole idea of general relativity and special relativity, that takes math to describe. It takes a special kind of creative, imaginative person to even come up with the math that describes the ideas of relativity. Imagine having to come up with a math that explains and describes the distortions in space and time. When you only have Cartesian coordinates, right? Or, when you only have just the most basic standard Cartesian way of thinking, linear Galilean type understanding of the world. And then having to come up with relativity, right? And almost have to generate a whole new kind of vector math. It's like, how the heck did he do it? How did he do it? And, no doubt it took many years and he had lots of help from good people, but, I'm definitely in awe and struck, really, about just how incredible Albert Einstein's achievements were in the areas of math and physics. In fact, I really don't have to say this, but Albert Einstein is one of my heroes. And I think I've mentioned this before in a few videos. I really appreciate Einstein for his pacifist stance and his brilliance when it came to math, his creativity, his also ability to be down to earth, and also his family situation was something I admire, how he dealt with the challenges in that area. Not that he succeeded in any particular way, but he was having some familial challenges. Anyway, I'm moving far astray. Let's move on to the next question. So the next question is question number 32. What talents do you wish you had? Okay, that's kind of easy. Well, the first talent that comes to mind is a talent that my dad, Ben Trujillo, has. he has the ability to make money. Buy low, sell high. And, it sounds easy to do, but I think the practice is a lot more challenging than the theory. My dad can make money. And the only way that I can make money is by selling my time. That's the only way that I've been able to make money. And I don't think that that's any particularly. I've developed my skills, my mental abilities, my communicative abilities, so that I can sell my time in an effective way and make money doing that. But Dad doesn't sell his time to an employer. He works for himself. He's an entrepreneur, and somehow he's able to make money, which is an arcane gift. And not a lot of people have the ability to make money. I don't even make money when I sell things on Craigslist. It seems like I always sell stuff at a loss when I sell secondhand. And that doesn't have to be the case. I mean, I think I'm really missing some serious components about marketing and salesmanship and just having the guts, right, to make a buck through trade. I have a hard time making money. So I wish that was a talent of mine. I wish making money was easier for me. So that's a talent that I wish I had. Another talent that I wish I had the talent to sing. And you know what? I think I have a pretty good voice. I think I have fairly good vocal control. And I think that if I just put a little energy into singing, that I could be pretty successful in it in my own circles of friends, right? I don't think I could ever be famous because there are so many talented singers in the world today. But I would like to at least enjoy hearing myself sing. And another talent that I wish I had is I wish I had the ability to play instruments. Now, here's the thing. A lot of this, of course I have the ability to play instruments, and of course I have the ability to sing. But here's the catch. I have to devote time and energy out of my day to learning how to sing and play an instrument. And that's just something I haven't decided to do. It's this whole idea of, having a talent and spending the time to focus and develop that talent. And I just haven't decided to do that. Oh, here's another talent. I wish I had a talent for languages. Speaking Spanish or French. I think of it as sort of romantic to have that ability. I have a friend or two friends that speak Portuguese, and I admire that talent. I admire people who strive to learn a language and then are relatively successful at it. They're able to communicate. So, a talent for languages. Now, I've tried to learn languages, but, I'm sure my efforts were only half efforts. And, I just haven't chosen to develop that part of my brain. Other talents that I wish I had the ability to build big, strong muscles and be highly athletic. The thing is, I spend so much time sitting down at work and just laying down at home that it would take a lot of changes in my life for me to develop a talent for physical activity, a talent for sport. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I could develop these areas of my life, like language, musical instruments, singing, sport, but I just have, over the years, decided not to spend my time in those ways. So, in a way, I wish I could have those talents and not expend any effort towards developing them. I wish, with the snap of a finger, that I could develop those talents in an instant. Wouldn't that be wonderful? The talent, certainly the talent for making money, that would be amazing. Yeah. Anyway, let's see what the next question is. Oh, you know what? We're coming to an end. Emily, I just want to say how much I enjoyed spending this time with you. I love you. I'm so proud of you and your work with the local theater. I'm excited to learn more about you and participate in your life. And as I've spoken just now, I have an interest in helping support you and give you any guidance that you might need about, and really give you anything, any kind of economic support or physical support to help you live your dreams. I want you to know that you are in the driver's seat. You are the one who is making choices for their lives. And for me, my enjoyment and my pride is mostly related to my ability to help you reach the goals that you decide upon. Anyway, I love you very much, girl. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful day, and I'll see you when I see you, okay? Peace. Is that's not the peace. What's the peace symbol? That's the peace symbol.